Good evening. I am Pete, also known as Risk for Rewards, or over on Twitter known as @Risk for Rewards. Currently got around 21,000 followers over there on Twitter, and I have got just under 2,000 subscribers here on YouTube. If you're not following on Twitter or on YouTube and you are interested in horse racing content, particularly with the jump season coming up, then they are my Twitter handles and my YouTube handle. If you subscribe to the videos, it just means that as soon as these go live, you get them first before anyone else. They just come straight up on your YouTube channel and you'll get a notification to say that a new video has gone live. Maybe not such a big deal now, but if it was for a selection where you wanted to get a price, or if it was a video that was saved for Wednesday for Saturday's racing before prices move, then it's always good to be subscribed. If you like the videos, any likes are much appreciated. Any comments, positive or negative feedback, always appreciated as well. So I'm going to talk today about the St. Ledger, but first just going to address a few things. So a few people have been messaging me since coming back from a little bit of a break. I've had messages on Twitter, people asking, am I still in the Discord? I did put in the Discord at the time that I was leaving, and I have mentioned it on Twitter and YouTube since, but I do appreciate a lot of people have had time off over the summer and they don't follow summer racing anyway. I'm not in the Discord anymore. I left about 2 months ago. It was more of like a mutual thing. Brilliant service that they're offering over there. It just wasn't really for my sort of style of what I wanted to do. It was more like what I did 10 years ago. So there's a lot of interactive, there's a lot of people chatting and like talking horse racing, some brilliant brains in the group. There's a lot of winners day to day, but it's just a very, very busy. And for me, I'm more of a punt Thursday or Friday at most through to Saturday or Sunday, or just for big festival meetings. So I prefer living more of the quiet life and just aim at those bigger targets. So it was, yeah, we've just gone our separate ways, but I still recommend everything that I've said before. NTN or Algo Trader if you want to get into their Discord, but I'm just telling you now that I am not there and I am going to be doing my own thing in a few weeks time. With regard to my own website, I'm looking to hopefully go live by the end of September, so before Arc Weekend, so in 2 weeks' time. The reason that I've not really done any in-depth sort of selections, as in I haven't provided, I still look with depth, I just haven't provided all the information with it. So through written content or in-depth videos with loads of stats and stuff is just because I haven't got the time. I'm trying to build this everything else up ready for the upcoming season. I'm very wary that the stable tours are coming out next week. They've said that Constitution Hill, his target's going to be announced, whether it's fences and hurdles, and obviously people were wanting to get on prices beforehand. I've already made my case with the Discord, and I said that I personally I think that from about April, after Aintree when he went 2 mile 4, and that's the only time I've seen him and not gone wow. I think it was a combination of, one was the fact that I think it was off the back of it's always a bigger race than you expect at Cheltenham, and Henderson always has them wound up. And two, he just didn't excel over the trip. So I just think that they weren't sure. Does that, obviously, of course, it does not write him off the possibility of going 2 mile 4, 3 miles. Of course, it doesn't. But I just think with Henderson, he's very extra cautious, and they see it as that, well, we're going to be taking on the similar sort of crop. And I think my gut is that at 4 to 5 for the champion hurdle, I think that's the way it'll go. But by the sounds of it, the rumour is that it's probably going to be announced at one of the Seven Barrows Open meetings in the next 14 days. And then obviously the markets will start moving, like the Arkle market, obviously Marine Nationale and Facile Vega, etc. But I'll go into that in a lot more depth in a couple of weeks' time. But I'm very wary that obviously start of October, all the stable tours start coming out, Grand National tips and all sorts of things like that. So that is my main focus. But at the same time, I want to have my website and everything up and running prior to some of the best flat racing still is yet to come. So we've got obviously, this is the St. Ledger. Then we've got a break weekend, but then you've got things like the Dewhurst, the Futurity. You've got Arc Weekend, which is obviously 2 days in France, Group 1s galore. Breeders' Cup, 2 days in Santa Anita, again, Group 1s galore. And obviously Ascot Champions Day, which I'm actually going to. So if anyone is going there, if you want to drop me a message or whatever, or if you fancy a pint or whatever, I will be at Champions Day and I'll be having a couple of beers there. And then obviously it's the jumps. But I'm keen to get everything out as early as possible with regards to the website, because obviously the prices are just going to start moving as soon as these stable tours come out. So yeah, so anyway, though, we're not here to talk about all of that. It's just an update. The aim is to have it in 2 weeks' time. So looking at the 14th. So the aim will be Thursday, the 28th, there or thereabouts. And that is 2 days before the Arc, because the Arc arc lead up is on the Saturday. So today I'm going to talk about Doncaster. Not too many selections, more of just a few going forwards, and then I'm going to just give my Antepost selections for the rest of the flat season of horses I've already backed. I've kind of curbed the whole Antepost as much as I probably normally would have, just because it's just been it's been a very mad season. I joked about saying tools down after Royal Ascot, but in effect it kind of was when you look at some of the way just things are. Like Sunday at the I think it was at the Curragh, you looked on Sunday morning, there were horses getting pulled out because the ground was too fast. And then by 4 p.m, they'd had such a deluge that you've got horses like City of Troy being pulled out because the ground was too soft. So it's been a mad year for it. And look at Doncaster. I mean, Monday, Tuesday, last week we had the hottest week of the year, I think it was. And then Monday, Tuesday, we've had rain. And now suddenly we're racing on soft ground. They don't know whether it's going to be good to soft or just straight up soft come the St. Leger. And you just never would have saw that a week ago. So, and obviously you don't know how good your clerks of the course are at giving you the information. Doncaster today looked pretty soft, and it's just madness. Like when you look at how it's spinning round, so it's almost like you're taking every day as it comes. So anyway, on to tomorrow. So tomorrow, I've only really looked at one race properly, and that's the Doncaster Cup, and that's 3 p.m. for anyone looking. Group 2, and it's a rematch of Coltrane versus Trueshan. So last year, Coltrane did get the better of Trueshan, and Trueshan, if I believe rightly, I think Trueshan was sent off 2-9. I will double check that. Yeah, 2-9 he was sent off. They raced off level weights. The ground was a little bit faster, but fairly similar. And he was sent off 2-9. They raced off levels. Tomorrow, Coltrane gives Trueshan £3. But the difference is, through their season, Coltrane comes in very, very similar form to what he did last year. He's ran consistently. You look at his RPRs, his last 3 of his last 4, bar the Quickthorn incident where Quickthorn got away from them all. He's ran to 119 on each of those runs, so 3 out of 4 times. You look at Trueshan, and Trueshan's ran to 119 once in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runs. And that was when beating Coltrane on Champions Day. So in reality, you think for Trueshan, his Gold Cup would be obviously Ascot Champions Day, which is in 4 weeks' time. And this will be, I'd say, but at the same time, there's so many ways you could look at this. He's going to have to be at least 95% fit, maybe even 100% fit, or this may be his Gold Cup, because Alan King will want to know what's got left in the bonnet. He's had a wind up, comes here obviously fresh, but it's just mega concerns for me with regards to Trueshan, and the fact that straight after the race at Nottingham, when he was beat by Roginski on return, which Roginski is let me just check, Roginski is a 104 rated horse, and he was getting £7. And Trueshan's rated 1, 2, 3, so he should not be losing those sort of races. Alan King was so deflated afterwards. It reminded me a bit of Honeysuckle when she first got beat, when they were talking about the Champion Hurdle campaign still. It was almost like he started mentioning retirement, he started mentioning going over hurdles, and then they rolled the dice, and then they went to Ascot, and he took on Coltrane, and he got beaten very easily, 7 lengths, and he just hasn't looked at the races. So he comes here fresh. He's had a wind up, comes here fresh. We know he goes well fresh. He will get his ground tomorrow, so he gets his soft ground. Trueshan's ran on soft ground before, but probably not as soft as he will tomorrow. But he doesn't strike me as a horse that would struggle on soft ground. It's just the fact that we know Trueshan really enjoys it. But the thing with Trueshan is, I'm just not sure if his head's in the game like it used to be. These two opened the market. It was about 7-4, 6-4. So 6-4 Coltrane, 7-4 Trueshan. You're now looking at 5-4 Coltrane, and Trueshan's gone 3-1 and getting bigger. So the two for me in the race, I think, like, obviously, as I said with Trueshan, it's very easy for you to make a case. If he won, you wouldn't be surprised. Okay, the wind up did it, and the fresh and all of that sort of thing. But for me, one, this could be a tune-up to try and bring him on. So as in, like, if he runs really well, but not quite there, it could be because his D-Day's in Ascot. Or two, is he may just completely flop and he might bomb out again. Like, he didn't look like a horse. He looked like once the stayers start to go, they don't look like they're coming back. And the fact that he mentioned hurdles, I mean, that was a worrying sign for me. So obviously Broome is always a worthy favourite, and if they give Ryan Moore too much rope on the front end, then that'll be a concern. But I mean, Coltrane whomped him last time at York, 8 lengths fairly easily. And he's not really shown anything outside of his Maydown run. He's not really shown anything at this level. Like his highest RPR since then is 108, and he's not run anywhere near the levels of what Coltrane has as 119. Um, so even with his £3 penalty, that would allow him to run to a 116, which the only time Broome has done was in Maydown. So I think Broome's got a big ask. I think an interesting, really interesting horse is Sweet William. Um, on ratings, he's got not zero chance, but he's got a lot to improve. Obviously, second in the Ebor, brilliant run. In my own opinion, if you switch the jockeys round, so if Frankie was on Sweet William and Robert Havlin was on Absurd, I think Frankie would have got Sweet William up. And it's no disrespect to Rob Havlin at all. It's just the fact that I think Frankie's very, very, obviously, you don't need me to tell you how good Frankie is. And I think when it comes down to those minor amounts, the half lengths, the last pushes, the way you grab a rail and stuff like that, I just think that's just my personal view. So I think he's very well. He's basically a horse that's going places. But I think the run before was the one that I really took out of it, which was at Goodwood, where I backed him at 7-2, and that was to take what I thought was quite a weak handicap. But the reason why I went to that Coral Summer handicap that he won, the reason I thought that he was such a good thing for that was because before that he'd won at Newbury, winning the handicap there in, again, very soft ground. And I think what this horse wants is the soft, heavy ground. I think he's going to really enjoy the relish. He'll relish the trip, and he'll enjoy the softer ground. So for me, I think Coltrane's the win bet, and then Sweet William. There's obviously two ways you're playing it. You can make smaller stakes. So Coltrane might end up like I've backed it Coltrane at 6-4, and I've backed Sweet William at 5-2 in the money back if second. So that means I've cut, and that's just purely to for a very small profit. So if Coltrane was to win, Sweet William came second, then obviously I make my money and I also get my money back from Sweet William. If Sweet William wins, it covers my stake on Coltrane and I win a bit more. And if Coltrane wins, then obviously I make profit. So the only real way is it's almost like a way of almost going against Truishan, laying against Truishan. And I'll be disappointed, obviously, as I said, with Broome and the Grand Vizier if they can get into it. I'd never write off an Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moorhorse, but for me, I'd be quite strongly in the other camp just because I just don't like it once the stayers start going. Would I be surprised if Truishan won? Obviously, of course I wouldn't, and I've got him wrong many times before, but I just think you've got to play the odds, you've got to play the form, and you look at the numbers, and all the numbers stack in one favour. The thing with Truishan is he's been quite a people's horse in the past. It'd be interesting to see what price he goes off, because I mean he's gone 7-4 to a bigger than 3-1 now. So come tomorrow, he could have grown. He could have grown again, and he could be like 4, 5, 6. He could be like 9, 8, 8 or 9-1 on the exchanges, or he could come all the way back in. And he could be like 9-4 or 5-2. So we'll have to see. And will they get any rain? They might not get any rain, and the ground will continue to dry out, and it might be on getting a bit of the good, as in on the better side of soft, if that makes sense. So that's it for me from Friday. I don't really want to go too far. And as I said, obviously you've got many ways you can play that race. But yeah, Coltrane win bet, and then Sweet William. At the moment, I'm looking at the market, and standout is William Hill. You can still get 5-2 on money back if second. So Sweet William wins, you get paid out of 5-2. If he comes second, you get your money back. Or obviously you can back him at 7-2. Which obviously gives you more money on that side of things and turns Coltrane into like an even money shot instead. I hope people understand what I mean by that. Right, so that's Friday. Obviously, the racing is brilliant tomorrow. I'm not going to dispute that. And I could sit here, if I was going to Doncaster, I could easily sit and pick through selections for the whole card. But it's at the end of the day, it's tight, and I just don't want to waste bullets this time of year. There's so many, like I can make a big case for one horse, then there's another horse, and I see all the flats, even the flat fans this year, they're saying, oh yeah, I could really see this horse, but what about his form from this? Or yeah, but when he was on soft ground, when he's on good ground. And I think even the best have really had a bit of a strange year with it. So for me, I'm not closing up shop, I'm just picking my battles, to be honest. So on to Saturday. I'm just going to cover two races on Saturday. So the first one is the Champagne Stakes, which was obviously, as I already mentioned earlier on in the week, I mentioned Rosalian. So Rosalian was even money when I put it up pre-decks, and obviously because of the soft ground, you can only hope that obviously they do still run. There's been nothing to say they won't, and Richard Hannon's even put out a sign saying the horse has been working really well with a rocket emoji. if that was any other trainer, I'd be absolutely thinking, yeah, let's go. But I've been on this train before with Richard Hannon, and he's very bullish about his horses, and I've seen him be very bullish, and then 5 minutes after the race be not so bullish. But at the end of the day, it's not just Richard Hannon. Like, you watch it with your own eyes, you look at the numbers. Like, this horse is officially rated. I know you look at them. Iberian and Rosalian have only had 2 runs each. Sunway's had 2 runs, but Rosalian's got an official rating of 112, which is £11 clear so far on the field. Obviously, when you're at this sort of stage and you've only had 2 runs, the ratings are pretty irrelevant. But even when you look at the RPRs, like the RPR, they've got an RPR of 110, and then you look at Iberian, who again, any amount of improvement, you've got no idea what's coming. But it's got an RPR of 98, so it's got £12 to find on RPRs. And the fact that Iberian came second to Hartem, in my opinion, would think that Hannon would know roughly where Hartem sits against Rosalian, or Rosalian, whatever it is. I think the more an interesting horse was Sunway. So Sunway was sent off the 5-2 favourite in the race that Rosalian won when won at 11-1 at Ascot. And was clearly well fancied. And I actually really liked Sunway going into that race. I didn't back Sunway. I didn't back anything in that race. But there was clearly some sort of issue. The horse was well beaten, almost to the extent of pulled up, and now comes there in a tongue tie. So there clearly was an issue, but it wouldn't be surprising to see a much better run here. But for me, providing the horse handles the ground, this horse, even obviously I put it up on Monday or Tuesday, but you read columns like Tom Segal's put a column up later in the week saying that he agrees that this is the English hope with regard to 2,000 guineas. Aidan O'Brien, we all know he has got an absolutely brilliant set of 2-year-olds this year. Well, on paper, currently he has. And a lot of people say, yeah, but 2-year-olds they often don't train on. But they don't look like these 2-year-olds that he's bringing through, like the City of Troy, Henry Longfellow, Diego Velasquez. All of these horses look like developers. They're not like your Little Big Bear where he's running them every 3 or 4 weeks, like as in really precocious. These horses look like these are developers, and they're still absolutely hammering through. So I think Rosalian is the British hope that we've got, and obviously could obviously be wrong, and obviously it could get beat on Saturday. But I personally will be looking for a way to back this horse in 2 ways. So the first way will be to win the 2,000 guineas. Obviously, anyone who's followed will know that I've put up City of Troy at 16-1 and Henry Longfellow at 16-1, both for the 2,000 guineas. But when you're putting up horses at 16-1, like, I'm more than happy. I'm going to be using a free bets on this one, so as in you get free bets with a certain amount of money, and I'll put some small cash. This isn't going to be obviously they are my main 2 bets, but at the same time, and I also think Aidan O'Brien is the master when it comes to races like that. But I do think this horse has got a decent chance. And there's no point you then saying, so say it's 16-1, 8-15 to win on Saturday. You combine those two. Say a bookmaker's giving you, I don't know, 20 or 25-1. There is no point you saying after the race, oh yeah, that was brilliant. I knew it was going to bolt up. And then look into the market and seeing that this horse is then priced at 6 or 8-1. And you think, well, I should have just added whatever you wanted on it at 25-1. Because backing it at 25-1 is a much better way of covering your stake, making a bit of profit. And the other selection as well that I've had a small bet on, which is to win on Saturday and to also win the Dewhurst. And that's purely anyone who followed on Sunday. As soon as City of Troy got pulled, I went straight to the Dewhurst betting, and I backed with William Hill. I backed City of Troy to win the Dewhurst at 7-2. That was just with the logic that if Henry Longfellow was supposed to be going to there and City of Troy was supposed to be going to the National Stakes, because Henry Longfellow had won there, City of Troy would go to Dewhurst. Obviously, it was a hunch, but luckily Aidan O'Brien has since said that is the aim. The only downside of that is the fact of the soft ground. If the ground is soft, as in too soft, he still won't run. That horse is now like 4-5 and even money in places. City of Troy, that is. But at the same time, obviously it being softer conditions, if Rosalian bolts up this weekend and then for whatever reason it is soft on the Dewhurst, if I've managed to get Rosalian on side for like say 10-1, 12-1 in that sort of a double up, then I'm laughing really. Well, not laughing because obviously I'll still be disappointed because City of Troy doesn't run, but I've then got either 2 on side, or if City of Troy didn't run because it was soft, Rosalian should still be running in the soft ground because he's already handled soft ground, if that makes sense. So in simple terms, I would not put anyone off. Obviously, if you've backed the even money, brilliant. But I also would not put anyone off 6-1 for the Dewhurst, or the 16-1 for the 2,000 guineas. If they win there, if they win here, then the chances are Hannon's quite a bullish trainer. The chances are he'll probably roll the dice with both. Well, he's obviously going to roll the dice with 2,000 guineas, providing the horse is fit. And if you go to the Dewhurst, it allows you to see if they handle the track. So the other race I'm going to talk about is obviously the Betfred St Leger at Doncaster. So this is obviously one of the most wide open races that we've seen in a long time with regards to the St Leger, and it's a bit like the story of the season. It's a bit like the arc itself. It's not because we've got like a million really good horses. It's the fact that we've got a lot of horses that are very in and out all season. And again, I don't know whether it's down to weather. There's a lot of horses that run in the rain, win, run on the good, lose. Soft ground, fast ground, grade ones, like they all beat each other in simple terms. But this is a very interesting race. Big mix up, Gosden versus O'Brien. So all I'm going to do is just give you simple, quick one-liners. Denmark was all over the shop last time, and that was for me enough to, obviously I put Denmark up last weekend. I mean, that could be a prep for this, and if he goes in at 50-1, fair play, but his head was all over the place, travelled well, but was not there in the finish. Alexandropoulos was one of their talking horses for the Derby at the start of the season, and he's not shown a lot since. My thought for him is that he's probably the pacemaker, to go in there and to pester Frankie on the front of the lead on arrest. Originally, probably would have thought he would have been pestering him on Gregory, but both of Gosden's like to go forward, and the fact that it's soft ground, it's likely to be arrest that's going to go forward. But whoever it is, I'd imagine Alexandropoulos is going to go in there and pester them and go forward to make sure it's not easy for them. Tower of London, I think, will be running on his merit. I think he's got a solid enough chance. And the funny thing was, he was favourite for the St Leger going into the race at Newmarket, the Bahrain Trophy. Obviously, Ryan Moore dropped his whip, got beat by Castleway, and everyone was saying, well, he was still the best horse in the race. But somehow he's drifted from 5s all the way out to 12. So there was talk of him going to Melbourne, but Willie Mullins basically said that Aidan O'Brien has said that he needs a couple more pounds to guarantee that he definitely gets in. So my theory is here, either he runs here on merit and that obviously he goes for it, or he runs well enough that he gets those couple of pounds which gets him into Melbourne, and that's the overall plan. I mean, Vauban was going off to Melbourne for quarantine this week, I think it was, so he's still got time to easily make that, if that does turn out to be the plan, for Tower of London. But I think he's got a solid enough chance in a wide open race here. Chesapeake is one of those where if he wins, you'll be like, well, okay, like a meh. But at the same time, he's clearly more than capable of, like, he's a good horse. But he was well beaten by Gregory, and he's been beaten by Desert Hero. So unless he's got good excuses, he has to overcome both of those. Not sure on Gregory, but I find it hard to see that. I know Desert Hero got up on the line, but they're only going to go further here, and Desert Hero is going to have further to get him up. And I thought Desert Hero was going away pretty easily at the line. So for me, I'll be disappointed if Chesapeake falls in front of Desert Hero. Middle Earth, I obviously put up in the Melrose handicap at 8-1. That was a good winner for us. But again, handicapper coming into a St Leger, not just a bigger step up in grade, but also a classic. I know the St Leger isn't classed as like the best race in the world with regard to classics, but I still think he's going to have to improve plenty. And obviously, I'm not saying he won't, and they paid £50,000 to supplement him. So that tells me two things. One is the fact that how good does John Gosden really think his hand was with Gregory in arrest? If he's happy to say, yeah, supplement your horse at 50 grand, he'd have a good chance. Does that mean Middle Earth's got a really good chance, or is that more the fact that Gregory and arrest maybe aren't so solid? It's a bit like Aidan O'Brien with his Derby horse. If you can't pick out the one, then and there's 3 or 4, does that mean that they don't have any? So it's a very tough one to work out. I just, obviously, as much as I was with him last time, I just think that maybe this is just one step too far. But again, I'm not gonna. Firstly, I'm pretty brutal with what I'm saying here, but I would not be surprised if the only horse that would surprise me is if Denmark or Alexandropoulos won. Outside of the other 7, I would not be surprised at all. So all I'm doing is trying to be brutal and narrow this down to 1 or 2 selections. Desert Hero. Desert Hero is a horse that I have backed. I backed him at 20 to 1. It was not like a. I'm not going to stand there and say, "Oh yeah, it's a great bet." I tweeted it and all of that sort of thing. That wasn't the case. I put up Desert Hero with in the same race that I put up another Aidan O'Brien horse, Espionage. So Espionage was the main bet, and I backed Desert Hero as a second bet. But I backed Desert Hero to win that race and to win the St. Ledger. Really small change, so it wasn't. I'm not saying that it was a fantastic bet, but I'm happy with Desert Hero. I've got very little to knock him with, and I just think since that London Gold Cup where he flopped when he was sent off favourite, he just doesn't know how to. He's so gritty and determined, and obviously he's been sent off 18 to 1 and 7 to 1. Again, obviously I've just knocked Middle Earth being in a handicap, and this is exactly where Desert Hero came from, and then obviously he stepped up again when taking the Grade 3. But the way he got Chesapeake on the line, the race did fall apart because obviously Espionage, who was sent off favourite, was a no-show, but he got the better of Chesapeake, and I just think that form's solid enough, and it's his run style, the way, and just how gritty he is. This sounds stupid, but the negative for me is the fact that he has got the royal colours on, and the fact that it's almost like the extra pressure and the stuff like that you just think it would be too good to be true. I mean, I'd love for that to happen. It'd be brilliant. It'd be good for the racing. It'd probably be on like it will be on it would be on the front page of some papers if he was to win a classic. So yeah, I've got no, and I've seen a lot of people saying now since that he's the each way player of the race, and I can see that because he's going to be staying on. He's obviously ran in fast handicaps. He's been running over 12 furlongs. I think this race will be very, very well suited for him. And he's definitely one of my picks. And even if I hadn't backed him, I would be backing him today, even at fives. Gregory is the horse that is hardest for me to put a ceiling on. I don't really know where you stand with him. He could be exceptional. He could be very average. I thought going into York that he was going to show us something special. I actually laid him at Royal Ascot. Once he got into out in front, I just thought Frankie's done too much too soon. He was 4 to 5 or like 1.8. I just thought he's not going to last home. He battled on well and he won. I mean, that handicap may not have been that good. Obviously, we look at some of the form in behind St. George, Chesapeake, who obviously just, in fact, it wasn't a handicap, it was a Group 2, sorry. So Chesapeake, obviously, you look at the form, he beat Chesapeake 5 lengths that day. Whereas obviously Desert Hero only beat him like a length. So arguably, again, this is why find it. The biggest negative for Gregory is the fact that Frankie was happy to get off. Like Ryan Moore makes a lot of whether it's him or Aidan O'Brien, he makes a lot of on and off, but he's doing that every day for really good horses, and the second string are phenomenal and all the time. Whereas Frankie generally gets most of these calls right, and then understand that the soft grounds come for a rest. But me personally, like I don't mean this to like be horrible in any sort of way, but a rest is just not a great horse. Like, okay, it's just not a top level horse, in my opinion. Basically, Arrest should not be a 3 to 1 favourite. Arrest is like a Group 3 horse and needs soft ground. Obviously, gets a soft ground here, so it's hard to write him off. If it wasn't soft ground, in my book, he'd be 8 or 10 to 1, and he'd have no chance. I still don't think he's got a great chance. And I look through, everyone's going to be saying, "Oh yeah." And his best piece of form was when he beat Adelaide River at Chester, but that was a long time ago now. And Adelaide River's obviously continued to improve. But even like that last run, people were putting him up at Newbury, but they were putting him up because they had nothing else that they wanted to back. Like they literally could not find anything else to back. Like the likes of Klondike and Ching Shi, who obviously finished 4th today behind Sumo Sam in the Philly Stakes. Like. And that form's just, and Ching Shi was giving Arrest weight. Arrest is just not a horse I really like, which to me then questions my thought process on Gregory as a negative. So I think Gregory's the horse that's got the most potential to do anything because I've got no idea. Only had 4 runs. Arrest, seems I'm already talking about him, is a shocking price. Even if he wins, he's an awful price. It's like the Derby. He was sent off for 4 to 1 or whatever for the Derby. Absolutely nowhere to be seen. I know this is completely different. You've obviously got a much more comprehensive track, simple track, sorry. And he's got his soft ground. But I think if you're backing him, you're banking him because he's Frankie Dettori's mount. He's just not a horse. He's a Group 3 horse. And that's my personal view on him. If he wins, you can come and say, "Oh yeah, Arrest." What? I really don't care, to be honest. He's just not a horse I've ever thought, yeah, you are really top level. So that leaves me pretty simple with Gregory. I've got a big question mark over, but the two that I like are Continuous and Desert Hero. Continuous, I guess part of it is that you're putting a lot on his most recent run on a standard Aidan O'Brien, sort of bringing them along progressively, because that run is standout as opposed to the rest of his runs. But at the same time, you look at Ascot and over 12 furlongs, finishing 3 lengths behind King of Steel. I mean, that's not a bad run at all. King of Steel is obviously a good horse. And in behind that day was obviously Arrest, who I've just been talking about. That was a lot faster conditions. I'm not even sure why Arrest was running there if he wants soft ground. But it was obviously the last run that really was a big pointer. I 100% get the race was set up for him. Gregory and Frankie Dettori went off way too fast, and so did the rest. And Ryan Moore was in such confidence, he just sat at the back and just thought, yeah, I'll wait for you. And he did wait for him, and he went past them like they were standing still. But it just reminded me of like some of their old stayers. In fact, I'll tell you exactly who it reminded me of. Apologies. British Champions Day. I cannot think of it in the same colours. I can't find it. It was the horse that beat Stradivarius at the end of the day. On Champions Day, went on. I'm sure he won this and then went to Champions Day and took Stradivarius down. I just think he looks so progressive. My biggest concern is the ground. So this horse, obviously, that was on good to firm ground. All his runnings on good to firm. He won last year though on very soft over in St. Cloud, and when it's soft in France, it's going to be at least soft. But the strange thing was he's also been pulled out on softish ground. So for me, if they don't get a deluge of rain tomorrow or going into Saturday, then I will add Continuous to my selections, because I just think Aidan O'Brien can do no wrong. I think the race will suit up because set up for him, because whether it's Alexandropoulos or Denmark making the pace, Gregory or Arrest or both are going to go forward. You'd think they won't both go forward because of the fact that they're both from the same yard. But this is going to be fair enough. They'll be keen not to go as quick as last time. They'll be very wary of that. But at the same time, I think they'll go fast enough that it should set up the race nicely for him. And I think Desert Hero will be staying on, and Continuous, obviously. I just think he's one that I think is going to be one of the most progressive in this race. So if you wanted one at the bigger prices, I would go with Tower of London. But again, the jockey bookings in this race is very peculiar. They're not sending over all the big boys for the jockey bookings, even considering it's a Group 1. Aidan O'Brien must have some big firepower over in Ireland on Saturday, because he's got Jim Crowley, Sean Levy and Danny Tudhope riding his 3 outsiders, just Ryan Moore on the main one. And the other thing is as well, it's a massive ride for Kieran Schumacher on Gregory. Like, these sort of rides are the ones that are going to win you positions at as Frankie Dettori's replacement. So, but for me personally, I've seen nothing to say that he's going to ride a perfect ride here. So I'm going round in circles. Continuous and Desert Hero for me. Desert Hero is currently 5-1. Continuous is 4-1. Obviously, as I said, I've got Desert Hero at a bigger price. But even if I was just having, say I was having £1, I'd have £1 on each. And that would still return just shy of 2-1 if either one. Obviously, if you put £1 on Desert Hero, return £6. That's going to be plus 4 points profit, however you want to work it out. Or obviously if you're an each way player. I'm not here to tell you how to bet, I'm just telling you what I'm doing. But that's obviously providing on the ground. But yeah, they're the two for me. Right then, so now I'm just going to quickly, and actually do this quickly, a quick run through of any other selections I've got throughout the rest of the season. Right. Where are all the... So as I mentioned, for the Dewhurst, I back Rosalian. I will back Rosalian to win on Saturday and to win the Dewhurst. So if the horse doesn't win, then I won't be worried about it not winning the Dewhurst, because obviously if you can't win on Saturday, you're not going to be winning the Dewhurst. So I will couple that as a bet. So hopefully get over 10-1 on that. City of Troy, I've already backed at 7-2 for the Dewhurst Stakes. And then the other one that I'll go into is obviously Arc. The Arc, currently I'm sat on my selections that I've got for the Arc are Ace Impact, at 13 to 2. I put that up on Twitter. And I've also got Save the Last Dance at maybe 12s or 14s. Obviously still sat there at 14s now. I think this race could be quite wide open, the arc, that is. So I wouldn't be in a massive rush to go crazy into that one. As I said, with regard to the stayers, unless they all flop and something really left field wins tomorrow, like as in if Coltrane wins or whatever, it won't be such an issue. But if something left field wins tomorrow, then I will be looking to back Kyprios and Emily Dickinson. Because at the moment they're about 6s and 7s. But I think the prices will stay like that, providing the market holds up tomorrow and nothing mad happens. But if something mad happens, then obviously they'll shorten, because they'll be like, well, Coltrane and Churichan are on the downgrade towards the end of the season. So that's pretty much it from me. Obviously not too many selections currently. I won't have anything selection wise next week. It'll just be website stuff, and then the week after it's all guns blazing, because we've got Saturday and Sunday for the arc, and all of my selections will start coming out ready for next year and the Grand National, etc. So if anyone is interested in anything to do with my website, you don't have to send a massive long message. Just drop me a DM on Twitter and just say interested, and all I'll do is I'll add you to a list of all the other people who have messaged me, and as soon as the information comes out, I'll just message you first. If you don't want to do that, that's completely fine, because I will put a thing obviously on YouTube and Twitter once everything's all set up and ready to go. So hope you're all well. Enjoy your weekend. Obviously only one more day to go in work tomorrow, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.